A friend ruined my expensive purse with Jello shots as a prank, which took my years of savings, and now I'm being criticized for taking legal action to recoup the loss. Am I the whole? I'll try to tell this as simply as I can, though the more I think about it, the more it twists up in my chest. A few weeks ago, I did something I dreamed of doing since I was a kid. I bought myself an authentic designer purse. It wasn't something I did lightly or impulsively. I don't come from a background where things like that were even remotely possible. I grew up poor. Not we couldn't afford the new shoes poor, but really poor. The kind of poor where you don't ask for anything, because you know there's nothing extra. The kind where you learn early to be practical, cautious, and to not waste anything. So buying something frivolous, something beautiful and unnecessary, something I wanted rather than needed, well, it was a big deal. It was more than a purchase. It was a symbol. A quiet acknowledgement to myself that the relentless, grueling work I put in day after day, year after year, had finally brought me to a place where I could breathe a little and enjoy the fruits of that labor. My job is exhausting. I work long hours, make sacrifices, and get compensated well because of it, but that doesn't mean I've always let myself enjoy what that money can give. So buying that purse, that was cathartic. It felt like healing some long-buried part of me. I'd had it less than a month, and I was being careful with it. I only wore it out twice. Once to a formal work event, you know, the type where everyone's in blazers and dress shoes and you want to look like you belong in the room, and once to a dinner out with my boyfriend and his friends this past weekend. That dinner was a good night. We ate well, had some wine, lots of laughter. Afterward, we all headed over to one of my boyfriend's friends' houses to hang out like we've done countless times before. This is not a new circle for me. I've known these people for years. We've spent birthdays together, gone on trips, helped each other move houses, grieved losses. It wasn't just my boyfriend's friends at that point, it was community. People I trusted implicitly. I didn't hesitate when I hung my purse carefully on the back of a chair in the dining room where we had gathered first. Later, we all drifted into the adjacent living room to play some card games someone had brought out. The rooms were connected. It's not like we left the house or even went upstairs. Just a normal shift in the evening's rhythm. My purse stayed exactly where I'd left it, and I never once thought to check on it. Why would I? Eventually, the night wound down. We gathered our things to head home, and as I slung the purse over my shoulder, I thought, that feels a little heavier than before. I didn't think too much of it in the moment. Maybe I tucked something extra in it and forgot. Maybe the weight was just shifting weird. By then it was late, I was tired, and we were both ready to call it a night. When we got home, I did what I always do, I started unloading my bag. And that's when I noticed it. The bottom was sticky. My fingers came away slightly wet. Confused, I opened the flap and stared down into the interior. My breath caught in my throat. The inside of the bag, the pristine, white leather interior that I'd been babying since the day I unboxed it, was ruined. Covered in splotchy, bright pink stains. It took me a second to even register what I was looking at. And then the smell hit me. Artificial fruit, cheap vodka, red Jello shots. Uncovered red Jello shots, shoved haphazardly into my purse, left to leak and soak and bleed their sugary, staining mess into every seam and fold. I just stood there, frozen, staring down at the damage. I'm not a dramatic person, and I don't use words like livid lightly. But livid doesn't even scratch the surface of what I felt in that moment. I felt rage blooming in my chest so sharp it almost made my vision blur. It wasn't just that the bag was expensive, though it was, and that alone would have justified being furious. It was that someone I trusted, thought it would be funny to do something so mind-numbingly stupid and juvenile. We're not 19-year-olds at a frat party. We're all adults. Every single person in that house that night was between 30 and 60 years old. Some of them have kids in high school and college. We're way past the age where something like this could be brushed off as a harmless prank. The violation of trust gutted me almost as much as the physical damage. That bag wasn't just leather and stitching. It represented something deeply personal to me, a quiet victory after years of struggle. And someone decided to make it the butt of their joke. They went into something that belonged to me, something I'd carefully taken care of, and trashed it for a laugh. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept going over the evening in my head, trying to figure out who had done it and why. No one had acted strange when we left. No one had slipped up or giggled or given any indication that they'd pulled a stunt like that. And that made it worse, knowing that someone could do that to me and still smile to my face afterward. The next morning, I texted a couple of people from the group, not accusing anyone directly, but casually mentioning what had happened and seeing if anyone knew anything about it. Responses trickled back, all shock and confusion and sympathy. That's awful. I can't believe someone did that. I have no idea who it was. Maybe they were telling the truth. Maybe they weren't. But either way, the damage is done. The bag is stained beyond repair, and I'm left feeling this dull ache every time I look at it because it no longer feels like the victory it did when I bought it. It feels like a reminder that even when you think you've made it, Even when you think you've built a circle of people you can trust, someone can still reach in and ruin something precious to you just because they can. And that's a hard pill to swallow. The first thing I did after the initial wave of shock and anger wore off enough for me to function was to try to clean the bag. I spent hours on it, carefully blotting, dabbing, using every gentle cleaner and tip the internet could give me. I went slow. I was cautious. But no matter what I did, the pink stains stayed stubborn and loud, soaking deep into the white leather like a permanent reminder of how quickly something precious can be ruined. By the end of that exhausting cleaning attempt, my stomach was in knots and my hands were shaking. I knew then it wasn't coming out. Not without professional help, and even then, maybe not at all. That bag, that symbol of something I'd worked so hard for, was permanently scarred because someone decided to screw around. My boyfriend saw how crushed I was. Without me even asking, he took it upon himself to reach out to the group chat, the one that has about half of his friends in it, the core people who were there that night. He kept it direct and calm. No accusations, no loaded language. Just, does anyone know who put Jello Shots in my name? As purse? For a while, there was nothing. Just the usual, oh wow, what happened? Or I didn't see anything messages. Then finally, someone spoke up. One of the guys admitted he'd seen it happen and named who it was. It was exactly who I should have expected. One of the older members of the group. Let's call him Dave. Dave's been around forever. He's one of those people who hovers on the edge of friend groups. Old enough to be an uncle to some of us, but not quite distant enough to be treated like one. He's known for messing with people's belongings. Not in a malicious way, or so we'd all assumed before now, but in that tiresome, I'm just a harmless prankster kind of way. I remember last summer, when we all went swimming, he thought it would be hilarious to fill the pockets of my shorts with Chex Mix while I wasn't looking. It was annoying. Crunchy bits in the fabric, crumbs everywhere. But nothing got ruined, and I just brushed it off as an eye-roll-worthy antic. No one really laughed then either, but no one made a big deal about it. We've all just tolerated him because it was easier to shrug off his nonsense than to confront him every time. But this was different. Putting uncovered Jello Shots, red Jello Shots, into a white leather bag is not the same as a handful of snack mix in someone's pocket. And in my mind, it's not even close. It's not funny. It's destructive. And frankly, it's common sense to know that red goo that liquefies when warm is going to leak into soft, porous leather. He can't seriously have thought it wouldn't. When I confronted him, calmly but firmly, and asked him to compensate me for either a repair or a replacement, he gave me the most infuriating response I could have imagined. First, he claimed he didn't have the money. Said straight to my face, I don't have that kind of cash lying around. That would have been one thing. Except I know better. Everyone in our group knows better. This man owns multiple sports cars. He lives in $1 million home. He goes on lavish trips. He wears designer watches. He is not broke, not by any stretch. He has more than enough resources to make this right if he actually cared to. When I pointed that out, and laid it out plainly, that I knew very well he had ample assets and could find a way to compensate me if he wanted to, that's when he turned it around on me. He crossed his arms and said flatly, well, maybe you shouldn't have brought something so expensive around in the first place. You're the one who left it sitting out. It's not my fault if you brought a bag that looks cheap and something happened to it. I wish I could describe to you the way my heart dropped hearing that. It wasn't just the deflection. It was the audacity of blaming me for something he intentionally did. Sure, I can take ownership of the fact that I left my bag unattended in a room full of people. That's fine. I'm an adult, I'll own my oversights. But no part of me, not in a million years, would have expected that someone in that house would think it was acceptable to deliberately open my bag and shove sticky, perishable food inside it as a joke. Accidents happen. If someone had tripped and spilled wine or salsa on it, yes, I'd have been upset, but I wouldn't have gone nuclear over it. But this wasn't an accident. This was a choice someone made, and now that it had blown up in his face, he wanted to pin the blame on me. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just looked him dead in the eye and said plainly, you need to find the money to make this right. Either that, or I'm going to take you to small claims court. And now, of course, the whispers are starting. A couple people in the group are saying I'm going too far. That it was just a prank gone wrong. That suing someone over a purse is an overreaction. That I'm going to blow up the group dynamic over something that could have happened to anyone. But the truth is, I don't really care what they think at this point. I'm tired of people brushing off boundary-crossing behavior because it's easier to laugh it off than to hold someone accountable. I didn't ask for this situation, but I'm not going to let someone disrespect me and leave me holding the bill. I'm still weighing my next move. I haven't filed anything yet, but I'm not backing down. Not this time. One thing I can say with certainty is that I am incredibly grateful my boyfriend is standing beside me through all of this. From the moment I pulled my stained bag out and showed him the ruined interior, he's been just as angry as I am, if not angrier at times. He didn't try to minimize it. He didn't tell me to calm down or that I was overreacting. He looked at the damage, listened to how important this bag was to me, and said flatly, "This is not okay. We're going to make this right." And yet, even with his support, I've been carrying this quiet, gnawing worry deep in my chest. I don't want this situation, as stupid and needless as it is, to come between him and his friends. They've known each other longer than we've been together. Some of these people have been in his life for decades. I don't want to be the person who comes in and creates a rift over a bag, no matter how justified I feel. At the same time, I can't just let it go. This isn't petty. This isn't vindictive. This is about respect, accountability, and compensating someone for damaging property they worked their tail off to afford. And that's been the refrain running through my mind ever since the group chat started murmuring about me, taking it too far. I keep asking myself, am I the bad person here? Am I blowing this out of proportion? And every time, the answer I land on is no. This wasn't an accident. Someone deliberately opened my personal belongings and stuffed something perishable inside as a joke. If I don't stand my ground on this, what does that say about how seriously I value my own boundaries and hard work? I had my appointment to get the bag professionally assessed shortly after. The woman who handled it was kind and knowledgeable, but even with her experience, the news wasn't great. She said, with careful words, that they might be able to repair most of the visible staining, emphasis on might. But there was a significant chance that the liquid had seeped beyond the lining, deep into the structure of the bag itself. If that had happened, even the most skilled repair wouldn't fully undo the damage. Worse still, she explained that even if they could fix the appearance, the smell, that cloying mixture of synthetic cherry jello and bottom shelf liquor could linger permanently. It might fade with time, but the chance of it being fully eradicated was slim. And even if it didn't bother me day to day, it would absolutely crush any resale value the bag had in the future. I hadn't even considered that angle until a kind person online mentioned it to me. When I brought it up to the repair specialist, she nodded grimly. "Yes," she said, "the staining and the odor will both make a significant dent in resale, even if it's faint. Collectors care about that. It's like smoke damage in vintage clothing. Buyers can tell." That settled it for me. As much as I loved this bag, and as much as I wanted to believe it could be salvaged, I knew deep down that it would never be the same. It would always carry the stain, literal or figurative, of someone else's thoughtlessness. For that reason, I made the decision to pursue compensation not just for a repair, but for a full replacement. Thankfully, this wasn't a limited edition bag. The same model is still available for purchase, at least for now. That gave me some hope. I love that bag, but I could love a new one just as much, especially if it meant wiping the slate clean and leaving this mess behind me. With that in mind, I started putting everything together carefully and methodically. I gathered the written estimate from the repair shop. I printed photos of the damage, taken in good lighting and from multiple angles. I wrote out a clear timeline of what had happened, the date of the incident, what was done, the name of the person responsible, and the steps I'd taken so far. I included receipts to prove how much I'd originally paid for the purse, as well as the current retail price for a new one. Once I had all the evidence neatly compiled, I drafted a formal letter explaining why I was seeking compensation for a replacement rather than a repair. I laid everything out plainly and unemotionally. I made it clear that I was not looking for punitive damages or extra money, just a fair replacement for what had been ruined. I decided that, to keep things as neutral as possible, it would be best not to confront Dave directly myself. Emotions were still running too hot. Instead, I asked my boyfriend if he would hand-deliver the packet of information to him. He agreed immediately. "This is fair," he said. "You're not being unreasonable. He should at least have all the facts in front of him before he keeps trying to dodge responsibility." We both agreed it was better that the letter came from me but was delivered by someone else. That way, there could be no claims that I'd ambushed him or acted unprofessionally. It also removed the chance of an impulsive argument flaring up on the spot. As for legal action, I haven't filed anything yet, but I've made an appointment with my attorney for tomorrow morning. Even if it doesn't come to that, I want to know my rights and be fully informed of my options. My attorney is someone I trust deeply, and if he can't take the case, I know he'll refer me to someone who can. I feel confident that I have a solid leg to stand on. I have clear proof of what happened, a witness who confirmed who did it, and documentation showing both the original value and the cost to replace it. I'm hopeful that once Dave sees everything laid out in black and white, he'll realize that it's easier and cheaper to just pay up rather than risk the mess and expensive court. But if not, I'm prepared to take it as far as I need to. I worked too hard for this. I'm not letting someone's bad prank write off months of my labor and dreams. I'll update again after I speak to my attorney. One way or another, I'm not rolling over on this.